Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Charlie Pankey again. It's Sierra Rec Now podcast. We thank you for joining us today. Wherever you're at, I hope the Sierra is within your sights or in your future. Hopefully, you're up hiking, fishing, hitting the mountain bikes before the snow comes. I was in Truckee yesterday checking some new trails out with the mountain bikers, and all we could talk about was snow. So, everyone is excited about the mountains turning white. But no matter what, we have fall season still ahead of us, and we have a great show tonight for you. We're super excited to have our guest from the Bam Trail Tournament again, Luke Johns from Folsom, California, be joining us here. Luke, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
We're super excited. Before you and I jump into the fishing world and we talk about recreation and your life in the mountains and on the lakes and stuff, I can't do my show without my sponsors and my guests. So I always like to shout out to my sponsors this part of the show. Visit Carson Valley. It's where my home base is at. It's where I go from all my adventures is from here. And it's awesome to be here because we have Heavenly Mountain out my window. Got Jodes Peak and Heavenly. It's super white right now, so they're getting ready for ski season. But here's a quick note from our sponsors. If I hit play. Hold on here. Got something weird going on here. Maybe the sponsors are going to go pay off later here. So there it goes. Now, Luke, the first thing I know is about that commercial is we need to get some fishermen on there.
Oh, 100%.
Although there's no bass fishing, I don't think here, unless topaz bass. I think it's trout here, but we do like our fishing in the area too. So, hey, welcome. Yeah. It's been a few months since you and I have met. I saw you at Lake Almanor back early season. You were coming off your, I think, second tournament, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that was that was the second tournament of the year. Now I remember where I'd met you, so that's perfect.
Yeah. If I remember correctly on that, you broke a boat and spent a day fishing with your trolling motor while everyone else had full, and you still made the top 10.
Yeah. That was definitely an interesting start. Yeah, it was, I think, literally maybe a minute or 2 minutes after blast off the first morning, I sheared my entire prop shaft. So literally the propeller was gone and there was no way of fixing it. So I just threw the trolling motor down and kind of went to work.
And still made the finals, still made top 10. Then I believe in the finals, someone loaned you a boat for the day, right? So.
Yes, yeah. Thank you to Jason. He loaned me his Vexus, and that was a sweet ride for the day.
Very, very good. Well, the season just concluded, and the reason we have Luke on today, and we reached out to Luke, just so you know, from our listener standpoint, is they just had their championship bout in the Delta last weekend, and the top 20 guys all showed up for the weekend and had it out. And Luke, you made the top 10, and then ultimately ended up with a boat. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was how it went. So yeah, they invited the top 24 guys. I think 23 ended up being able to make it. And then we went out, fished 2 days. They made the cut down to the top 10, and thankfully I was inside the top 10 and had a decent day on the last day and was able to walk away with the first place prize with the boat and a little extra contingency money. So that was pretty cool.
I always like that. I always love to see your success in that. Now just to remind our readers here that your guys' BAM tour is really unique. That the first 2 days, the guys are going to discover the water again. They can't be on the water 30 days in advance. So no one was able to fish their favorite spots on Delta or go out and learn where the fish are at. So first morning, they go out, they have to find these fish and use the techniques they know how to. Second day, they're trying to get both weight or number of catches, I believe, legal catches, to make the top 10. Yes. And the top 10 are where the money is on Sunday. So it just clears the board, and it's just whoever fishes best on Sunday, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. So we have a limit size of 14 inches. So they take 5 guys with the most scoreable bass, as they call it, and then they take the 5 guys with the most cumulative weight over the first 2 days. And then, of course, on the last day, everything zeroes out, like you said, and then it's just best 5 fish that last day.
That's fantastic. So let's just focus on the Delta real quick, because that's where we're at in the season. How did that go for you? Give us a rundown of your weekend, how it looked, and then I read in the article that you were a little shocked actually to be at the top spot last day.
Yeah. So, like you said, it's a really interesting format, especially with the 30-day off limits, because a lot of the times in these tournaments we're practicing. So we kind of have a game plan going into day one. And this one's just like, it's kind of just a free for all the first morning. And you kind of just hope you land on them. So we launched out of Big Break Marina, which for those of you that aren't very familiar with the Delta, it's near Oakley. And
Okay.
then I made a run basically down to Tracy. So it's a 30, 40-minute boat ride at, 70 miles an hour flying through those Delta canals. So fun
Wow.
boat ride, but raced way down that way and kind of landed in just one little area of the river and just kind of started to piece together the puzzle over the first 2 days. Caught
Okay.
a lot of fish on reaction baits to start. I really like doing that, especially in this format or when you're trying to basically find fish. It's a really easy way to find more, fish that are willing to feed at that specific moment. And then once you've kind of narrowed down your areas, then I go back through and I like to pick them apart a little bit more with the finesse style baits.
Okay.
So that was kind of the game plan for day one, and yeah, it worked out well. Landed on some fish, and after the first day, I was kind of both in a good spot on the keeper side and on the weight side. And then going
Okay.
into day number two, I just figured, keep the ball rolling, kind of expand on what I had found the first day. So went back out, fished that same general area, had a pretty successful morning. Ended up catching a big one, a 5.7. So that was a nice
Nice.
nice fish to catch for sure. And then filled out the
Yeah.
rest of my limit pretty early in the morning, at about 11 o'clock. And then after that, one of the really cool things about this tournament is we use an app called TourneyX. So you're
Yep.
actually, it's where we upload our keepers to, as we call them. And one of the fun things that we get to do as anglers is we're actually allowed to kind of check the leaderboard as the day's going on. So you know where you're standing, which is really unique for a fishing tournament because normally it's completely blind until it's weigh in time and then you come in.
Right.
But I basically use that to strategize, and I kind of saw myself in that top three position at about 11 o'clock, and I figured, I think I'm going to hold in that top spot going into the rest of the day. So then I basically just went out and practiced. So I kind of left those
Wow.
areas alone, left those fish alone, so I didn't beat them up too much more the second day, and I ran all new water for the whole rest of the second day, just trying to find something special.
Great.
Sadly, that didn't really work out.
Oh no.
Didn't really find anything new, so burnt a bunch of boat gas and covered a lot of water, kind of for nothing. But I guess it got the jitters out of me, so I didn't want to go check it on the last day. So then, yeah, going into the last day, I had finished up. I think I was going into the last day in like sixth place, maybe, or maybe fourth place.
Okay.
But of course, like we said, everything kind of zeroes out.
Yep.
So then it's basically just a 1 day shootout at that point.
Mhm.
And so my game plan, obviously, you catch your five biggest ones, and I ran straight back down to the spot where I'd caught that big one the first day, and picked that part up or picked that area apart with a Yamamoto Senko just on a wacky rig, real 5 inch. I actually have one sitting here. I'll show you guys.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, just a little 5 inch wacky Senko, and just throwing that up against the weed line and letting it just has this real slow, subtle sink to it. And basically every fish can't resist it, whether it's big or small. I think I caught
Okay.
30 plus fish the first 3 hours of the day, but a lot of them are,
No.
those like 10 to 14-inch fish. So I kind of just
Gotcha.
squeaked together a small limit that first morning, but it took a lot of the pressure off me because then I could just kind of relax. I knew I had my limit, and then I could just work on upgrading. So then the one of the other great things about this tour is they actually have camera boats. So I
Hmm.
had a camera guy pull up on me, and I told the guy, I'm like, hey, we're gonna make a run down this slough. We're gonna hit a couple other spots on the way, and I got a spot I want to hit, kind of at the end of here. And I'm driving down, and I see there's this sheet metal retaining wall on the way, and I just said, you know what? I've seen it. I've seen some fish on it the last couple days. I'm just gonna pull in and check it real quick. So shut the boat
Okay.
down, pull up on it, and there had been these bait balls that are getting pushed up against the retaining wall there. They're kind of using it as a pinpoint to eat these bait fish.
Okay.
And I have what's called live scope, and for any of you that don't know what that is, it's a sonar system, so I can actually
Hmm.
see what's in front of my boat. So I could see these bait balls, and then I saw a fish swim out from underneath one of the bait balls. So it's a really unique thing to use live scope on the Delta, just
Yep.
because there's so much debris in the water. So
Yeah.
kind of lucky, but I see this fish swim out, and I'm like, you know what? maybe you'll eat the Senko. So I just flip the Senko out in front of him, and I'm watching my Senko fall on the screen, and then I just see the fish swim over and just go straight down to it, and I'm like, he might have
Crazy.
it, and I just kind of reeled down, felt heavy, and just set into it. And as soon as I set the hook, I looked back at the camera guy and I was like, dude, this is a big one right here.
Oh,
And it comes
nice.
up, does its jump, and all around fighting all over, trying to take me underneath the boat and all that stuff. Finally
Yeah,
get it
yeah,
in the
yeah.
boat, and that was the big one for the day. So that was a 4.5 pounder, and that came pretty early. So
Fantastic.
that was awesome. That was some excitement in the boat for sure. And
And I,
then
I, I rode with those camera guys at Lake Almanor. They were, I guarantee they were just excited you just get some action, and they were just looking for
oh
action.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We got the fish in the boat, and Thomas, the camera guy, he like after the dust had settled, he looks at me and he goes, I really hoped I got that on film. I got so excited when you hooked that thing. I got to make sure the camera wasn't shaking. But he texted me
Exactly.
later. He said it was all good. So when the TV show comes
Fantastic.
out, you guys will get a good fish catch on camera. But
Couple of weeks, we're
um,
gonna see it live.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So ran a bunch of other spots down there, caught more fish, just nothing that really upgraded the limit. And then at about like 1:30, the wind started to blow. And one of the great things in bass fishing, especially when you kind of get that weather, whether it's wind or a little bit of overcast, that reaction bite tends to get a little bit better for us. So that's when
Okay.
I picked up a chatterbait, or in this case, I got a Picasso Shockwave. I'll show it to you for anybody that doesn't know what it looks like. It's basically a
Hmm.
blade on the front of a jig, and it gives it a vibrating action. So
Oh, okay.
I picked that guy up, and I was throwing it down kind of the grass lines, and I got one bite really quick after that wind picked up, and I'm like, okay, that's a great sign. It was a smaller fish, but that's all right. And then about 5 minutes later, I just had one absolutely kind of knock slack in the line, set the hook on that one, and it was another one a little bit over 4.25. And
Nice.
that rounded out my limit that I ended up weighing in. But like you said, I didn't think I had the thing won, so I
Right.
fished my absolute butt off until the very last minute, and then had to make that 30-40 minute ride back. And the whole time I'm basically just thinking, I'm one or two bites short. I'm
I'm
gonna
one
I'm
short,
gonna
right?
be third, fourth place probably, because this group of anglers that's out there is absolute hammers.
Yeah.
They
So that's
usually. Oh, go
I
ahead.
think that's what I was gonna share with the readers that Luke's not sharing with you. These are the 25 best anglers on the West Coast, probably, right? This is
Yeah,
by invite only to this league. These guys know what they're doing, and these guys on this last day, they're not uploading all their weights to that app. They're
yeah,
hiding as much weight as possible. They don't want anybody knowing how much they have, so they can be
yeah.
a surprise at weigh-in. So they're all guessing. I remember at Lake Almanor, Mark Pilgrim going, "It's going to take 18 pounds."
Yep,
He had a number in his head. It's going to take that much, and
yep,
he knew before he landed that he wasn't there, right? So it was one of
yeah.
those things where you guys have been doing it so long. You got Ish Monroe out there, Zach Thomas out there. I'm not even
Hmm.
trying to list the top 10, but these guys have
Yeah,
been doing it a long time. So it must have been felt pretty good to stand on that podium and weigh in
yeah,
and see the weights.
yeah.
Yeah. How early in the weigh in were you?
So we all come back at the same time, obviously, and
Yep.
being a bunch of guys that are curious, we're all asking each other, oh, what'd you get? Like, what do you think you have today? What do you think you got? And of
Yep.
course, we all have scales, so we all kind of know roughly what we're going to weigh. Usually, the scale on the stage weighs a little bit different than the handhelds, but
Okay.
so I'm sitting in line and I'm like, oh, I got like 15, because that's about what I had on my scale. So I'm like, I'm probably going to be in the 15 to 16 pound mark. And there were
Right.
two other guys, Ken Ma and Zach Thompson, who were right next to me in weighing, and they were kind of the only two guys that it seemed like had a rivalry with me, or a
Right.
shot at taking it. So
And
I was a little
correct
bit.
me if I'm wrong, Luke, but isn't Ken Ma like the Delta Ken Ma's home ground? Isn't that
Oh yeah,
his playground? Okay,
oh yeah, yeah. He's won a ton of tournaments there. He lives close. He fishes it all the time. He's
yeah, yeah,
definitely
okay,
one of the guys when you're rolling out in the top 10 against him, you're like, hopefully he doesn't catch him better than I do, because he
yeah,
usually
exactly,
does.
got you. Yep.
but um, but yeah, so I'm sitting in the back of the line, and I think I was the fourth to last guy to weigh in. So the whole time it's absolute just stress. Kind of feels like you're going to throw up the whole time, because
Yep.
you have a shot at either winning anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 for those, like second through fourth, fifth place spots, or you're going to win a $65,000 boat. So
Yeah.
it was a little bit stressful the whole time. Ended up weighing that 16 point, I think it was 4 1 pounds or maybe 4 2 pounds,
Nice.
and then had a couple more guys to weigh. So I sat in the hot seat for a minute, still stressing. And then the last angler weighed in at 14:42, and that was the moment it sealed it up, and the stress relieved, and I got to lift the trophy and tow a new boat home.
That's awesome. You had to go home and find a new parking spot for a second boat, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, one of my neighbors lent me his backyard, little side yard spot. So I stole that thing for my boat, and I got the new one in the back of my backyard.
Well, congratulations. That is fantastic. I had a question when I heard you guys were giving away a boat. Does this thing
Yeah.
come fully loaded, or are they giving you the base model and you have to go now put all your favorite stuff on it, or did they give you all the treats so that
Oh
everybody
yeah,
can see
yeah.
you on the water?
Yes, so this thing is it's a Bass Cat Pantera Classic, so it's a 19-foot 8-inch boat. Came with a Mercury 200 on the back of it. It's got a Garmin trolling motor, top of the line, and then it's got two Garmin graphs in there as well. So it's rigged up, ready to go fishing. It even comes with 3 lithium batteries, so those are super nice. So the thing's
Nice.
rigged and loaded, ready to hit the water. Yeah.
And that should help with sponsorships maybe this year, huh?
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so. So,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so yeah, definitely.
So Luke, now people may I can't tell you're pretty young compared to the guys on
Yes,
the field. Were you the second youngest or the youngest guy that were in there? I couldn't remember if the guy from there's another young man that's in
yes,
this.
yeah. There's Hayden Lee. He's actually just a
Hayden, that's it.
couple months younger than me. He did
Gotcha.
qualify for the championship. He had a wedding, so he couldn't make it. So I know he was bummed,
Oh
but
no.
yeah, he's the other youngest. So me and him are just
Okay.
a couple months apart.
Very good. I hear that the Bass Angler magazine is just announced today or this week that they're going to be doing a youth series or a young professional series coming up where they're going to be inviting college and younger kids in to get started in tournament play too. Have you heard about that yet?
Yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't have all the details off the top of my head, but I do believe they're announcing a high school and a college series for next year, which is something that I really recommend every young angler. If you have an opportunity to get into something like that, it really helps get the ball rolling on how to learn how to tournament fish without having to go out and fish against the Ken Maws of the world and all the other guys that are like that and get your money taken. So it brings down the playing field to something more level for a new angler. And they've been a lot of fun. I used to do some of those and had a lot of success and a lot of fun fishing those things.
That's awesome. And so, how did you get started at such a young age into professional bass fishing? I mean, most of us are saying, hey, we're going to college or into a tech career. You don't hear many people, they want to go play football or basketball, but how did you get started in becoming a professional bass fisherman?
Yeah, so I'll take it all the way back to the early days. So I
Okay.
fell in love with fishing when I was, basically since I could walk. My grandpa, he actually lived up in the Sierras. We fished, the Feather River, Deer Creek, all that kind of stuff, and that was all trout fishing. So kind of
Yeah.
got the fishing bug there, and then I live in Folsom, so there's not so much of that kind of stream trout fishing that I really like because I'm not a bait fisherman. I don't like to sit on the bank
Okay.
and wait for a bobber to go down. I like to cover water and entice the fish into biting. So um,
Gotcha.
so I found bass fishing on just like a kind of a pond level. So I'd Google Earth a bunch of ponds in Folsom, and my dad would take me. He'd literally drive me around all these ponds after I got out of school and
Okay.
did that. And then I actually got in touch with my mom worked with a lady, and her son is a professional fisherman
Okay.
back east, and he kind of told me about the tournaments and how there's a possibility to basically make a career out of it. And I got really kind of infatuated by that, and then just kind of started working my way up the level. I started a high school fishing club at my high school, and then
Okay.
simultaneously I was fishing some smaller level tournaments on the co-angler side. So you basically show up to these tournaments, you don't have to have a boat, and you get paired with somebody who has a boat, and then you fish off the
Okay.
back. So
Is
I
that
did that, and that was
like a pro am?
yeah, exactly. So a pro am series. So a great way
Okay.
to learn whether you're a new angler or even a pretty seasoned angler. It's a really fun way to kind of dip your toes into the tournament world without having to have a brand new bass boat or any of that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fun.
And then yeah, after that I just kind of worked my way up, and then eventually felt comfortable enough to get into the front of the boat. And for the last, I think it's been, I'll be going on my 5th year in 2025 fishing the front of the boat at the pro level. So
No
yeah.
offense, but you don't look like you're old enough to have 5 years of professional fishing behind you. You must be pretty good at
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
obviously,
I've
right?
spent a lot of time and a lot of money pursuing this thing, so thankfully it's been paying off a little bit.
Well, that's really important for kids to hear, or anybody who's thinking about that. Is that it's just like every other sport, right? The more time and
Mhm.
practice you put in your skill, you learn how to become good at it. You learn how to compete, and then life kind of leads you in that direction, right? So,
Oh,
congratulations on making
100%.
that happen at such a young kid. That's pretty cool. So,
Thank you,
so
thank you. Yeah,
you said you used to fish with your grandpa and your dad up on the Feather River. Do you have a favorite place to go in the Sierra and go fishing nowadays, or do you just stick bass water and that's all you do?
the bass fishing has consumed me completely. So
Okay.
sadly, I don't get as much time to go up and do that as I wish. But I have to say, probably, the Upper Feather River was always kind of, that was like my childhood fishing. So that's got like a soft spot for me in my heart. And I would go there. I remember my grandpa, he wouldn't let me fish anything other than that kind of orange crawdad, um, rooster tail in a
Yeah.
1/16th ounce, and that was the only bait that I was allowed to throw. I mean, he literally wouldn't let me touch anything else. And but we always caught fish, so that was a super fun experience, and just that was what made me fall in love with fishing. So I still think about
Great.
it. I still need to plan another trip up there and do a little bit of trout fishing, get back to the roots, but I just haven't found the time for it recently.
Well, yeah, and I know that the BAM tour here, they're going to go to the Super 60 now next year. They're increasing
Mhm.
the field size. They got a whole new schedule ready to release for 2025. So, how soon will you start prepping for that? Will you be fishing some other tournaments in between? How does your season transition go?
Yeah, so this tournament was my last one for the 2024 season, so I've got a little bit
Okay.
of kind of time off for the next couple months. Pretty much through the holidays, the tournaments kind of slow down. There's a couple small ones that I'll just hop into for fun, and
Okay.
then yeah, for next season it'll kick off for the Bam Pro Tour in April, and then I've got 5 events for that next year. But really, the kind of prep and practice for all that kind of stuff never really stops. I'm thankful enough
Okay.
that I live right across the street from Folsom Lake, so I fish that at least once a week, hopefully 2 or 3 times a week if I'm lucky.
Okay.
So constantly out there just trying to kind of hone my craft and perfect my skills. So spend a lot of time on the water just trying to get better. And then, if I get a free day on a weekend, I might travel around, fish the Delta again, or go up to Clear
Great.
Lake, or any other place in between.
So this year you guys had a really cool. You went down to Arizona. You went to the Columbia Gorge. Obviously, you had Orville, Lake Almanor, and the Delta.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite moment or favorite fish that you caught story besides the one of course the big prize you got there in Delta that you want to tell about?
Yeah, yeah. I guess I'll leave out the Delta since we already went over that. That was definitely the highlight of the year.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but all of them were fun. I gotta say. I mean, I love going to Almanor and catching those smallmouth. They're a blast to catch there. The Columbia River is really a special fishery to me, just because you go up there and you catch so many numbers of just quality smallmouth. You'll catch 2 to 3 pound fish, and you'll catch usually 30 or 40 of them a day. So
Wow.
I mean, you can just put up some serious numbers on that place, and the
Mhm.
fishing is just fun. Those smallmouth are so aggressive. There's current. They fight good. And then another one that was it's kind of a sleeper lake, as I'll call it, is that Thermalito Afterbay. It's a really small fishery, but there's some absolute giants in there. I think that was where my
Okay.
favorite fish catch of the year came. Um, we were fishing basically, or I was fishing like these kind of flooded Tule Islands. So
Okay.
if you look at it, it looks like just a solid wall of tules, and it's a 50-yard circle of tules. But on the very inside of it, it's deep enough, and those fish will just swim through those tules. So you can actually
Hmm.
take what we call like a flipping rig or a punching rig, and you'll flip it just into the
Oh.
dead middle of these
Yeah.
tules, and it kind of just looks like you're. It looks almost like you're throwing on the bank if you're an unexperienced person, you've never done this before. But you'll flip way back into these things,
Me.
and I flipped back into one of these pockets, and my bait goes down. It drops in those toolies, and I just feel the thunk, set the hook, and I basically wrestled this I think it was a 6.8 pound largemouth out of there. And I mean, it was like
Wow.
20 yards back in the toolies. So I'm like fully leaned back, just grinding my reel, dragging this thing out. And thankfully, I managed to get it out of the toolies, and it's basically just flopping in between toolies the whole way back. But
That's
landed
crazy.
it, got it in the boat. And yeah, that had to be the highlight kind of fish catch of the year. That was a really cool one for me.
Great. And you said that was at the first was that the first tournament?
No, that was the Thermalito Afterbay, which was I guess that was, I think that was the last regular season event of the
Right.
year.
Okay. Got yeah.
Yeah,
I must have missed that one. I apologize. Where's that located at?
that's right next to Oroville. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay. So
it's
in my
actually the
mind it's
water that
Orville.
comes out. Yeah,
I
yeah.
gotcha. I'm calling it Orville in my head because that's where I geographically on the map. So I
Oh
gotcha.
yeah, yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. People call it
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
Oroville Afterbay or the Thermalito Afterbay. Yeah,
That makes sense. That makes a lot of
yeah,
sense. That is
yeah.
crazy. That's so fun. It's so cool that you guys get to do so many different bodies of water and different styles of water, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
this isn't
definitely.
just Northern California stuck in a spot. You guys traveled all. It's pretty neat. So
Yeah, yeah, really diverse fisheries. That's one thing that I really like is going to new areas, and it's always, I mean, it's that puzzle that all of us fishermen love to put together. So it's really fun going from a deep clear water impoundment like Almanor, and then you basically next tournament you're going to the Delta and you're busting out the heavy line, the flipping stick, and the chatterbait rods and top
yeah,
waters and
yeah,
all that fun stuff. So yeah,
crazy.
keeps you on your
Did you?
toes.
And I'll bring this up because we've had Mark Pilgrim on by chance. But did you find any one spot where the local it was a local spot and it was just seemed unfair even with a 30-day window. They just knew that lake that much better. Did you ever find a spot like that, or is it pretty level once you don't have 30 days?
It is pretty level, I will
Okay.
say. But there is definitely some home lake advantage. I mean, well, you saw it from Mark Pilgrim. He kind of dominated the first 2 days of the event. Sadly, I know for him that he didn't have the day he wanted on the last day, but he still caught him. I mean, he still
You
did
still
pretty
caught him,
good.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so fisheries like that are hard to do, but like you go to the Oroville After Bay, for instance, that's not a place where really any of the competition had spent a lot of time on previously. So that
Mm-hmm.
30-day off limits really levels out the playing field, and then it's pretty much just whoever's the quickest one to figure them out.
Figure it out. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I learned so
yeah.
much following you guys around that I knew nothing about bass fishing. I get a lot of respect for that, for you guys in that. So, if I
Oh,
remember right,
thank you.
at Lake Almanor, your family was there with you,
Yes.
and I know that's pretty close to home. But are they able to travel with you to any other events? Do you have a group that supports you when you travel, or
Oh yeah, yeah. So my parents, they pretty much try to show up to like every single weigh, and I think they made it to all of the BAM Pro Tour events this year, and
wow?
they made it to a couple of the other bigger events that I fished. So that's really cool to have them at weigh-in. I mean, especially because it's not really the best spectator sport in person. They're
It's
not
pretty
able to
hard.
get out on
Yeah.
a boat and follow me around, but they still make a point to show up to the weigh-ins, and then another cool one. My girlfriend made it to the Afterbay weigh-in too, so that was
Okay.
fun to have her there. She got to see that go down, and that was the first time she came to an actual weigh-in in person. So that was a cool experience for her.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Hey, you wouldn't believe this, but we're already up on 30 minutes here. And we
Oh,
always like to be
nice.
polite
Okay.
to polite to our guests and keep our shows pretty consistent. So, I want to say congratulations to you one again. I met you.
Thank
You
you.
were a cool kid at Lake Almanor. I was really excited to see your name pop up there. I'm sure you're going to have a great future in that. So, and I hope to see you again this next year. I hope to make it to another tournament and try to get some pictures of you guys. But I have three questions I ask all my guests. They're all the
All
same.
right.
I'll try to
Perfect.
cater them a little bit to your fishing world because I know you're consumed by it. So, but I think we can
Okay.
figure this out. Okay.
All
So
right.
let's just
All right.
assume that between now and next April, you have some free time and you're going to
Mm-hmm.
go play in the mountains. Okay. And we're a Sierra Rec show. So we're about the Sierra Nevada, right? So you
Okay.
can do whatever you want and go wherever you want. Your bag is packed. Where are you heading?
Ooh, that's a good question. All right. I'd probably bring it back to my real young days and go up and do some snowboarding. Actually, I haven't snowboarded in quite a
Very
while,
cool.
so I think I'd have to get up on the slopes, try to see if I could figure out the snowboard thing again. Try to not injure myself in the time being. um,
Keep those arms free.
yeah, exactly, loosey goosey down the mountain. But that would be a fun one.
Do you have a
Gosh, what
favorite mountain
else?
resort, Ben? Do you have a favorite mountain that you like to go snowboarding on?
It's been so long that I don't, so I won't
Okay, very
embarrass
good.
myself and try to pick one out.
No
um,
problem. No problem at all.
but yeah, I definitely do that. And then, if the weather allowed it, I guess it might not be the best season for that. But of course, I got to get back up and do some more trout fishing up there in the stream. So that's
Gotcha.
definitely
That
on the
sounds good.
list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, so you're on the fishing boat all day long. You've been
Hmm.
cruising out there. You guys are out there forever, right? You've
Yeah.
got to get
Yeah.
hungry. You've got to
Long
get
days.
hungry, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
what is your favorite after tournament meal? Like, what is? Yeah, you did well at the meal. What was the meal you had to have?
Oh gosh. Funny enough, so two I've won a couple big tournaments, and two of the big tournaments that I've won, the meal right afterwards has been McDonald's. So I'd probably just
No.
throw it back to McDonald's. It's I know it's not like a health food or anything, but um it's nice to come off the water. You're absolutely beat, and just something kind of greasy and nasty just always
Yeah.
sounds good. It just hits the spot after you've kind of just wore yourself out for the whole day. So
And I'm a
yeah,
big
probably throw it
cheeseburger and
back.
fry guy too, so I get that 100%. McDonald's I
Yeah.
probably skip, but I understand. No offense to McDonald's by any means, but I
No,
probably
no,
go
no.
find a
I
local
get it.
guy.
It's not the healthiest. So
I
yeah,
got
but
you.
yeah, it hit the spot afterwards, so that's for sure.
All right, perfect. We're gonna go so into our last question right in your wheelhouse. Then, you're a gear guy. Fishermen have all their gear. You guys have 6 rods or 7 rods on your boat, all the different lures.
Oh
Is
yeah.
it always, outdoor guys always have a piece of gear they never leave home without? Maybe it's not something that people would think of. Like, I'm a map guy. I always have a paper map with me. Sounds
Hmm.
weird, today's technology, but what's your piece of gear? What's the thing that you never leave home without in your gear world?
Ooh. Oh, let me take a second on this one. I know a bait that I never leave home without, so I
Go
might
ahead.
go with that
Throw the
one.
bait
All
out there.
right.
That works. Yep.
Yeah, well, it was one of the ones that I used this week. It was that Yamamoto Senko. That thing is just, I mean, it's a bulletproof fish catcher. It's been around forever. It's probably the biggest money making bait there's ever been in bass fishing, and it's really versatile. So I think I've been to, gosh, I mean, probably 50 different fisheries across Northern California or across the West Coast, and every single one that I've been to, I've been able to catch fish on a Senko. So I always got to keep
Awesome.
one of those in the boat. And then I guess almost building off the snack thing, I've always got to have I drink those yerba mate,
Okay.
energy drinks,
Yep.
a little bit healthier. So I always have one of those in the boat because, like you said, we're out there for 8 to 10 hours a day, waking up at
Yeah.
4 in the morning. So got to have a little caffeine in the boat with me.
I like it. I like it. Going back to your lure there, by the way, if I remember back to Lake Almond, or can't remember if it was Ken Ma or if it was Ish Monroe, one of the anglers were talking about how they had like a junk drawer full of those back in the boat that had been in the boat for 10 years. That they just never run out of that same lure.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was the one. So
Yeah. I've got the bulk 100 packs in my boat just so I
there
don't
you
run
go.
out. So yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Luke,
Yeah.
it's been great talking to you. I really appreciate you giving us time. I'll look you up for the 2025 season, and I wish you best as this winter as you're getting ready to go.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you having me on, and thank you to all the listeners who stuck around and listened to me ramble. So I appreciate
It
it,
was
and
great.
hopefully win another tournament and find myself back on here next year. So
If I see you next year, I want a picture of that boat and you. I know you guys like your boats, so
oh yeah, definitely,
okay.
definitely.
Sounds good. If you're with us and listening for the first time, thank you for joining us. We do have our winter edition coming out November 21st, the magazine. This podcast runs weekly. Thank you for joining us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and we'd love to see you on our social media channels. Shout us out. Leave us a note down below. Say hi to Luke. Let us know if you're a bass fisherman. Maybe we have a little trout versus bass competition in the comments. Let me know if you like bass or trout better in your fisherman world. And wherever you're at, we hope to see or is in your future. The snow is supposed to fall this weekend. So get prepped because it's ready to go wintertime in the Sierra, guys. Have a great day wherever you're at. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Sierra Right Now.